Hello, can you hear me, Mr. Oko Judge?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now, Mr. Humble.
Okay, good to have you here, brother. Um, it
Yeah,
appears that it's
to be
only
here
two of
too.
us for now. So, is it
Okay,
possible we do some testing while we wait for
okay,
others to
let's
arrive?
quickly. All right, no problem. You know,
Okay.
I've not used Zoom in a while, so I'm still trying to figure out a couple of stuff. You know, it's like it's strange to me. I've not used Zoom in a while. Seriously,
Yeah,
the
we
the
have
last time
somebody
I the
else.
last time I
We have somebody else join us. You're welcome,
okay.
Iboro. You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Ko, just go ahead.
Hi, Boro. Yeah, I was saying that I've not used Zoom in a while. I think the last time I used it was during the heat of the pandemic, and the interface is a little bit strange to me now. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I had to do a review course on that because of this training, because I found out that I had I became rusty over some operations, so I had to go back and see what I can do to keep myself up to speed. So good enough. We have
Hmm.
just a few of us here. Um, Mr. Kojo, do you want to? Do I go ahead to do the introduction so that you start in a while? Are you good?
Yeah, hold on. Let me figure out. Just hold on while I'm trying to figure out. Okay, share my screen. Okay, I've seen the image. That's what I was particular about. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, IB. Great to have
Okay.
you.
We also have Barrister Ndede with us. Good evening, sir. It's good to have you
Uh,
here. Thank you very much.
Evening, barrister.
Good evening. Nice to join you guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, Mr. Coach George, are you ready? Because I'm about to start up. We have about 45 minutes and 45 minutes of deep content. Usually, it wouldn't stay for 45 minutes and end. Usually, we'll have questions and answer session push us beyond 45 minutes. However, I would like to inform all of us that should we get to that 45 minutes mark and it logs us out, please go back to the same link and rejoin the meeting again. Once again, I want to say thank you and you're welcome to everybody here who have created time to be here with us. We are living in very interesting times, and this is the time where we have experienced failure from governments, groups, institutions, countries, and a lot of failures around everywhere. And the news has been very frightening these days. I try to stay off the news as much as I can. I only log in once in a while to, check in what's up and get out. And at those times where I log in, I'd have to work on my emotions to be able not to be carried away by what I'm going to hear, because a lot of things we hear on the news are frightening. This is the time where we look more inward than we do outward, because a lot is going on. People are losing their jobs, people are getting sick, people are losing loved ones. And it's quite an interesting time. So when more people are losing their jobs, when there was even no job in the system, and we need to become innovative in our thinking. People need to do more, come up with more creativity. And we all know that the most important skill there is thinking. When we are employed, for those of us who are aspiring employees or employees in existing, the most important thing your employer expects of you is thinking. The thinking skill is what puts you at the top. And if you are an employer of labor, you also will agree with me that what keeps you ahead of your game is your ability and your capacity of thinking. And that is, of course, predicated on your ability to acquire a lot of information. So, your ability to put the information, knowledge, skill sets, your soft skills, your life skills, your hard skills, your ability to be able to harness all of that, put all of them together, mix them in appropriate proportion to be able to come up with prime solutions to problems right on your foot. That is what puts you ahead of every other competition in your field. So, that being said, today is not my day to talk. On my own day, I'm going to do all of that. But for tonight, I'm going to leave the floor for my good friend. We have been friends together for over 20 years. We've been friends for over 20 years. And it takes a lot to remain friends with someone for that long. You will agree with me that not a lot of friendship lasts up to that. We've been friends from our teenage days till today. In point of fact, I think we first met 1992 or 1993 or thereabout. So we've been friends till today. We rub off on each other positively, day in, day out. We challenge each other. We have disagreements. We make up. We come back on the table. We keep pushing each other. And he is one of the phenomenal men I've ever shaken hands with. So tonight I bring him to share with us something very important. He's gonna be talking to us about times and systems, a paradox in our today's generation. So, Mr. Co-Judge, I hand over the floor to you right now. Take
Okay,
it
thank
away.
you, Mr. Homo.
Right.
I think I'll dive right into it once immediately. Can you enable me to share my screen?
Okay, let me do that right away. Let me
Okay,
do that right away. Okay,
okay, can I? Okay, let me
go ahead. Give it,
see.
give it, give it a shot. Let's see.
Okay, I think. Okay, well, good. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, your screen is not on my screen yet. Okay, good. I can see you.
Okay, is it on presenters mode?
Uh, I think you. No, not on presenters mode at the moment.
Okay, let me see if I can put it on presenters mode. Okay, is it on presenters mode now?
Oh yes,
Should be.
yes, you
Okay,
are.
fine. Good evening, everyone. All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody,
Just
and
just
thank you
just
for.
just 1 minute, just 1 minute, Mr. Co-Judge. Please,
Okay, I got
let's all mute our mics. Grab your pen and paper. I assure you, tonight is one of those nights that you're gonna be able to take something home. Very important. If you know me very well, I don't waste my punches. I don't initiate things when I don't know they can happen. Don't just sit down to listen. You'll miss out on a lot of things. This guy is deep on what he talks about. Grab your pen, keep your jotters around, take notes. Your question time will come after the presentation. Thank you very much. Mr. Coach, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for putting me on the spot there. I hope I meet your expectations. Anyway, like I said, my name is Uko George. My specialty is in data analytics. So most of my slides will be carrying some form of data because I tell stories using data. Now, when Humble invited me or requested that I do this presentation, I kind of struggled to come up with the title or the topic of my presentation until a time when we had a conversation on the group. And in the middle of the conversation, I think somebody said something and the title just popped on. I said, okay, fine, let's talk about times and systems. And I hope at the end of the presentation, we'll all have some talking points because I want it to be conversational. I'm just going to run through a couple of slides. I think I have 15 slides. I'm going to run through them very fast so that we have time for the discussion because it's more of a conversation. Yeah, I'll be able to do more if we go into the question and answer sessions rather than me just doing the presentation and doing the talking. So permit me to be a little bit snappy in terms of going through the slides. So like I said, my name is Uko George. I'm a data analyst and co-founder of Eureka. As you can see, and on your screen right now, it's a bit of my profile. And I'm a Google certified digital analyst, hardware professional, certified Facebook media planner, and also an expert with Watson Analytics for social media. Okay, that's about me, and let's move on. So today we will be looking at time systems and the paradox of a generation. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes from Bishop Tudor Bismarck, which says that if you lack the basic understanding of how the times you live in works, you simply lack the competence required to succeed. This is very instructive and this is very key. And if you lack the basic understanding of the times you live in, if you understand how the time you live in work, then you simply lack the competence required to succeed. A lot of persons are not succeeding because they lack the understanding of the dynamics of the time. And that is why we're just quickly going to look at the dynamics of the times we live in. Why is it that a lot of persons are finding it very difficult, while some people are finding it very, very easy to make success of any endeavor at all? So quickly, uh, this slide talks about time systems and order, and I just want to run us through the various eras and time mankind has lived in. Now, the very first era was known as the first industrial revolution. Now, in the first industrial revolution was in the 18th century when the steam engine by Watt was invented. Now, the steam engine, yeah, facilitated mechanized farming. Now, before now, things were done manually. So people, production had to be manual. Whatever you're doing, whatever industry, it was manual labor. But the introduction or the invention of the steam engine facilitated mechanized farming, mechanized production, mechanized let's just call it machines to be precise. So that improved productivity. Now, people within that era were able to scale and make and be highly productive the moment they applied what works in that time, what that time and era came with, which was mechanization. Now, with the introduction of mechanization, there was increase in productivity in agriculture, in manufacturing, and in every sphere. So those who made breakthrough during the first industrial revolution were those who were able to key in to the dynamics of that revolution. Then mankind moved into the second industrial revolution, which was also between the late 18th centuries and 19th centuries. And this was as a result of the invention of electricity and also the assembly line plant. Now, electricity brought down the cost of production because before now, in the first industrial revolution, it was more like steam engine that was used to power engines, to power machines, and to power whatever machine that you needed to power in factory. But the introduction or the invention of electricity brought down the cost of production and also enabled those who could not afford to acquire steam engine to power their plant to have electricity through public supply. So there was productivity. It brought down the rate and the cost of production, and also there's this assembly line that came as a result of the second industrial revolution. Then quickly, we also came into the third industrial revolution, which was in the 20th century, the century just before the century we live in today. Now, the industrial revolution was a result of the invention of computer and partial automation, meaning that if you would make success, if you would scale in any endeavor, if you will break forth in any endeavor, if you would differentiate yourself in whatever endeavor you are in the 21st century, then you must apply computing. the power of programming, the power of software. You must. Now, every company, every industry, every organization that scaled and made progress and differentiate themselves in the 20th century had to make use of the computer. And that brought about partial automation when a lot of people lost their job as a result of um, computerization. But the challenge we have is that most of us grew up in this century. Let me put it that way. We were brought up by people who grew up in this century. Our parents lived in the 20th century, or the 20th century, and their style of living, the way we were brought up, the what things we were taught were how to survive in the 20th century. But we are, how will I put it? We are a generation that lives in a um, how will I call it? We are in a transition, let me put it that way. And our generation is caught up in the transition because right now we've moved from the third industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution that is powered by AI, artificial intelligence, is powered by applying information, communication, social, and mobile. Now, these are the tools, or these are the platform that drives the century you and I live in. It is how do you apply information? How do you apply communication? How do you leverage social? How do you leverage mobile? Please just hold on to that thought. Now, the common denominator as far as the transition between each successive century or industrial revolution is concerned is that innovation drove the transition. Once there is an innovation, the dynamics of that time change, and people who made success in their endeavor were those who embraced or those who were able to intuitively leverage the dynamics of the time. Now, if you lived in the industrial revolution, the first industrial revolution, and you were still practicing um, manual labor, manual farming, using the hoes and cutlass, there is no way you could compete with somebody who has transitioned into mechanized farming. The same thing happened in every generation, I mean, in every revolution. So if you are still thinking as somebody who lives in the information age, which is the 20th century, the age of the computer, because especially in Africa, people are still struggling to even use the computer. But we have even moved, the world has moved beyond computer, partial automation, and programming. What reigns today, what is in play, is how do you apply the power of information, communication, how do you leverage social, and how do you leverage mobile? Let's move on quickly. Now, the impact of the fourth industrial revolution. These are some of the things that I highlighted. Job disruption, meaning that job loss as a result of as a result of artificial intelligence, robotics, and the rest, which has not really taken place that much in Africa yet, but a lot of jobs has been disrupted as a result of the fourth industrial revolution. There's innovation and productivity. There's inequality. The disparity between the rich and the poor is widening on in a massive scale. Let me put it that way for want of words. Now, before I move forward, let me go back. Now, in every century, in every revolution, one important thing that study revealed is that just a handful of the population were able to make the difference, were able to leverage the opportunities in that century, a handful. Each transition brought about mass poverty. And that's the truth. Meaning that every time we transition from one industrial revolution to the next industrial revolution, a larger percentage of the world's population become poorer than they were. And then a few handful of the population becomes super rich. Super rich. Okay, so the whole businesses will be disrupted, and we can see that today. Jobs will be disrupted. A whole lot will be disrupted. I don't want to spend too much time on that slide because I just want to show us a couple of slides, like I said. Now, look at the effect of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, in 2006, which was just when we in the early part of the fourth industrial revolution, that's the 21st century. You know, the 21st century kickstarted in the 2000s. In that early part of the 2000s, these were the most capitalized companies in the world. Now, these were the most capitalized, the most powerful organizations in the world. The most powerful organization in the world was ExxonMobil. General Electric was second, Microsoft, Citigroup, which is a bank, Gazprom, gas company, and industrial bank. So the sector, the global economy was dominated by oil and gas and the banking sector. And Microsoft was the only tech company that was able to make it into the top 6. But as we further make inroad the fourth industrial revolution, look at what we have as at last year. Today, I think there's a slight difference, but the chart I have is as a result, it's showing the first quarter of 2020, how it stands. The top 6 most capitalized companies in the world. Microsoft number 1, Apple number 2, Amazon number 3, Alphabet number 4, Alibaba Group number 5, Facebook number 6. As we speak, ExxonMobil is no longer even in the top 10. As at 2020 first quarter, ExxonMobil was number 9. But as we speak today, ExxonMobil is not in the top 10. Now, what would have happened just within 14, 15 years? Look at the way everything has shifted. Something must have happened. Something must have happened. Now, the big players have now been relegated. And then companies that were not even on the radar 15, 20 years ago are now the most capitalized companies in the world. I want you to hold on to that thought. What happened? How did this transition happen? How did it happen? What facilitated it? What made these companies that were not even in the top 20 as of 2006 become the most capitalized or the most cherished organizations in the world as we speak? Also look at this. As you can see, the world's largest taxi company used to be the New York Yellow Taxis. New York Yellow Taxis was the largest taxi network or company in the world. But today it's Uber, but Uber does not even have a single vehicle. The largest content producer, let's put it that way, or most popular media outfit globally is Facebook. And Facebook does not create a single content. The most valuable retailer in the world as we speak today is Alibaba. And Alibaba has not even a single inventory. Now, ABN is the world's largest accommodation provider and does not own a single real estate. The game has changed. The big players have been relegated to the back seat, and the newcomer, the disruptors, who have been able to leverage the times. That's why I said times and system. They've been able to leverage the time and the system, the dynamics of this generation. And because they've been able to identify what drives this era, this revolution, or this century, they've been able to create a differentiation and outpace the big players of the 20th centuries. Now look at this data. The fastest growing last year during the pandemic by Upwork, 70% were new skills. I'm bringing all this because I'm going to tie everything at the end of my presentation. 70% of the top skills that we have as of today are new skills. Not the kind of skills or not the kind of skills that we were taught during the days of our university days or our secondary school days. Now, children entering primary school, 65% of children entering primary school will end up in jobs that do not yet exist. Invariably, what we're saying that in the next 15 to 20 years, there will be new jobs that are not even existing as of today. Jobs that our curriculum cannot even address. Jobs that we are not even preparing this generation of children for. Jobs that we as adults will not even be able to fit in. Now, Google says that the team manager of Google, that 14% of the people that they hire in Google don't even have university degrees. 14% don't have university degrees. Now, these are organizations that will not employ you if you're not a university degree holder. Something is happening. And then PricewaterhouseCoopers, I'm sure we know Pricewaterhouse, began a pilot program allowing high school graduates to begin working as accountants and risk management consultants in 2018. There is something these organizations are seeing that we're not seeing. They are seeing certain things and they're seeing the change and they're beginning to leverage the opportunities the change is bringing forth. Like we said, at the instance of every transition, it's only a handful of the population leverage the opportunities, spot the opportunities, and leverage these opportunities to make difference. A larger majority end up poor. Okay, now let's look at this. Because we live in the conceptual age, the information age is called the conceptual age. Sorry, the fourth industrial revolution is called the conceptual age. Now, this is a major factor, so I want you to pay attention to this. The education you and I got, the education you and I received, according to science and research, we were trained as left-brainers. And the left side of the brain, the left side of our brain has its own area of specialty. And this, if you look at the chart, you can see where the strength of the left side of the brain. And our academic system, our curriculum made more use of the left side of the brain. And that's how we're trained to think. That's how we're trained to function, to be analytical, to be detail-oriented, perception, ordered sequencing, rational thought, verbal caution, planning, math science, logic, and so on and so forth. But today, the demands of this century, the demands of the time, the fourth industrial revolution, places a different kind of demand on our thinking, places a different kind of demand on our way of reasoning, places a different kind of demand on the skill sets that we need to develop. Now, if you look at the right side of these are research work by scientists, neuroscientists, that the right side of the brain handles intuitive thought, holistic perception, random sequencing, emotional thought, non-verbal, adventurous, impulsive, creative art. Now, if you look at the list on the right-hand side, you'll find out that the people who tend to operate more like right-brainers are the ones breaking forth in this century. I pause so that, because I want you to really think about this. Now, if you look at the list we have on the right-hand side, people who think like this, people whose brain function in this manner predominantly, are the ones who are breaking forth. Random sequencing, emotional thought, creative, writing art, imagination, left field vision, So the fourth industrial revolution is the age of awesome, highly creative ideas and invention drawn from unfamiliar areas of thinking. As a matter of fact, as a Christian, I think this is more like what the Bible described, that the things that eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man, the things that God is going to do. I think this explains it, because for me, what is required to survive or to break forth or to differentiate in this system that we live in requires you to think beyond the normal. Think beyond normal. I hope you guys can still hear me. I think a message popped up. You need to go to uncharted region, irrespective of whatever field you are today. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to change career. What it implies is that you need to think differently. Okay, I try to round up. Now, for the 21st century. And this prediction was done in the 80s. For those who did forecast based on trends they saw during the 80s and in the 90s, that in the 21st century, this is the formula. Half multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, meaning that the first half means that half of the world's population will lose their job. And during the pandemic, International Labour Organization did come up with the statistics that clearly show that half of the world population lost their jobs, were no more working. Half of the working population, not the world's population as a whole, the working population of the world's working population, half of it lost their jobs. Now, the formula also says that the next two means that the ones who will have their jobs, the remaining two that will have their jobs, will be living on what we call not minimum wage, they call it living wage, meaning that they will only be surviving, meaning that their salaries will not take them the whole yard in terms of taking them for a month. If you're a salary earner, and there is no way your salary, half of the working population, now half will lose their job, and half of those working will not be able to pay their bills with their salaries. And then the remaining half of the population, working population, will need to work 2 times more than they have ever worked in life and have no time for themselves. Let me not dwell too much on this, because I quickly want to wrap up so that we can have the conversation, the discussion. Now, let's look at Nigerian statistics to buttress the other slide. I don't know if we have, I'm not sure we have students, because this is mostly for students. Now, according to UTME, that's JAM, candidates, 750,000. That's the university, the tertiary institution carrying capacity in Nigeria, meaning that every year, both university, polytechnics, monotechnics, just tertiary institutions cannot absorb more than 750,000 students. But 1.5 million students sit for WAEC exams on an average in Nigeria alone. 48.9 million unemployed population, youth population, according to National Bureau of Statistics. And we have, as at 2015, which was the best in the last five years in terms of job creation in Nigeria, has been 450,000 jobs were created in 2015. The statistics, the data is worse now. Now, if you do the math, look at this. You have your university can only take 750,000 students. The whole tertiary institution, not just universities. But every year, you pass out 1.5 million secondary school leavers, 1.6 million students take JAM, and almost 1.5 million people graduate annually from over 300 tertiary institutions in Nigeria. in a country that can only boast of 450,000 jobs created annually. That means over a million young people end up joining the unemployed market. Now, the information goes further to show that information sector, that's the informal sector, creates 77% of the jobs, public sector 4%, and private sector, organized private sector 19%. Now look at this slide. This slide shows you the living wage. Now, according to World Bank studies, if you are an individual in Nigeria and you earn below 40,000 naira a month, then you're not earning living wage. Now, you consider how many people in Nigeria, the population, earns above 40,000 naira. The number of persons in our country that earns more than 40,000 as an individual. Now, if you are a family, World Bank says that you shouldn't earn below 130 to 140,000 naira for you to survive, for you to live an average life, to be a middle class citizen. Really middle class, or just for you to earn a living wage. That's the right word, the right phrase. A living wage. Living wage. And this beats your imagination that how many Nigerians can actually, or how many Nigerian families are within this category in terms of monthly income? Very few. I brought up this data to show you, to buttress my point that a lot has changed and it's not going to get better. This is not just a Nigerian factor, it's a global factor. So, but it's not going to get better. It is not going to get better. So that means there has to be a shift. There has to be a shift. Now, according to World Economic Forum, these are the professions that automation is taking over. Meaning that if you find yourself in any of this profession, then you should be very, very scared. I mean, you should be very, very conscious of the fact that automation is going to take over your job. Food preparation, construction, cleaning, driving, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. As I wrap up, now, at this point, I just want to say that this is the end of the slide. And I want us to go into the conversation because, like I said, the slide was just to trigger our thinking so that we could have a discussion. The question now is, what is the problem? What is the problem? The problem is that a larger percentage of us have not been able to identify what drives the 21st century. We engage these tools, we engage this platform on a daily basis, but still don't know how to leverage and to take advantage of what we have at our disposal. If you must differentiate, if you must break forth, irrespective of your career, irrespective of your industry, you must be able to apply technology, digital technology. Now, before we even go to the advanced technologies like artificial intelligence and robotics, data science, and the rest, let's look at the common technologies that are within our disposal. Your smartphone. Remember we said that social drives this technology. A lot of us are on social media, but are not leveraging the power of social media. I think I should exit my slide now because I'm done with the slide. Are you guys with me? It's as if I'm on an island of my own. I hope you guys are still with me.
I can hear you. I think you should still keep the slides, Andy, because there might be need to
To go
revisit,
back.
to revisit a few of those slides as we discuss further.
Okay. Okay. Like I was saying, The challenge is that we're not leveraging the opportunities available to us. And that's because it's a mind thing. We don't see them as opportunity because of the century we were brought up with. Like I said, we are in the middle. We were brought up in the 20th century. A lot of us grew up in the 20th century. So we think like people in that century, not knowing that things have changed. Now, if you look at today, those who are breaking forth, like I almost shared a couple of videos, I think a couple of weeks ago, and where the guy was sampling people who were driving Porsche cars and asking them, what do you do? What do you do? And if you get to hear some of the things those who were able to afford some of these luxury cars do, you'll be marveled. I mean, I'm a YouTuber. It doesn't make sense to somebody who grew up in the 20th century that you are a YouTuber and you are in billions. It doesn't make sense that you are a blogger and you're making billions like Linda Ikeji simply from blogging. And you begin to ask yourself, I did engineering, I studied this in school. How come I'm not able to break forth the way these guys are breaking forth? These guys are able to leverage the dynamics of the time. That is the bottom line. Just like previous dispensation, just like previous revolution, those who understood the times and the season or the systems of the time they live in were the ones who break forth, were the ones who differentiated, were the ones who were able to make success of their endeavor. Those who did not understand still grappled around mediocrity, grappled around being average. Remember, I said a few, because in this century, still a very insignificant number of people are going to make success out of whatever endeavor. Remember, I said it does not matter which profession, which career, what industry, or whichever sector you find yourself, you must find technological sensitivity around what you do and leverage. In fact, I thought we'll have more of the younger people so that I could tell them that your smartphone is the most powerful tool you can ever think of. What you have, the processing speed of your smartphone is more powerful than the computers that I learned with when I was in the university. That is the gospel truth. The smartphone you're carrying today, an average smartphone, has more processing power than the computers we had in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Your social media is a powerful platform, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, it's a powerful platform. The world today is driven by social, is driven by mobile, and is driven by digital technology. So whatever profession you are in today, you must intuitively find ways to leverage this tool. Don't look at it as, okay, this is trending things for the younger generation. No. People are starting businesses just from ground zero. It is easier to start a business from ground zero in this era than it had ever been during the lifetime of mankind. Before it took, according to studies, Forbes says that it usually takes an average of 70 years for a company to break into the Fortune 500 category. But as from 2000 upward, it's been shrunk to about 7 years. Companies that are dynamic can break into Fortune 5, can become Fortune 5 companies within 7 years, as against 70 years. Why? Because companies who have been able to leverage technology, companies who have been able to be innovative and be able to identify niche areas that they can leverage on. Remember, I said it does not matter your profession. You don't need to be a techie. You don't have to be a technologist. Because when we talk about technology, a lot of people think, okay, I'm not a programmer. I'm not a graphics designer. We're not talking about that. What we're saying is that whichever field you find yourself today, there are opportunities if you leverage the tools that are available for you today. The YouTubers, the guys doing YouTube videos and are making, what do? They just do crazy stuff. They don't really do, man, you say fine. They might not really be adding value to the society. Yes, I agree. But the fact is that they understand how the current society works and they've keyed into it, like it, and they are reaping millions, making millions from it. You must find ways, whether you are a lawyer, whether you're a bank, or you're a financial expert, whether you are a counselor, you must find ways to leverage the tools available. You must be mobile. I'm not, like I said, I'm not even talking about going into artificial intelligence yet because that's a little bit advanced. I'm talking about the tools that are available today. I know I have testimonies of several businesses who have started just with a Facebook page, just a Facebook page. I'm a certified Facebook trainer. So I have success stories, and I have stories from businesses, from brands who started with just opening a Facebook page. We don't have much time, so I am not going to go so much into that, but I just wanted to understand that if you must differentiate, if you must create a unique value proposition, it must be driven by technology. You must find technological sensitivities around the thing you do. Now, nobody's going to do that for you. You need to think deep into what you're doing and see how can social media, how can mobile technology, how can digital technology be of advantage in this area that I find myself today. Previously, I used to host live meetings in terms of having trainings. And I remember sometime last year, even before the pandemic, a lot of young chaps will be asking me, don't you do trainings on online? When I'm in Port Harcourt, they say, okay, are you based in Uyo? Or I'm in Lagos, they say, are you based in Uyo? Do you have online trainings? And I'll be like, that online. I'm an online person. That's to show you that even I'm still struggling with it. That's the gospel truth. So it is not a function of whether you are intelligent or not. It's about you understanding how the times we live in work. That's gospel truth. Because even I am still struggling with it to an extent. I'm a techie, but still found it difficult to do trainings online. I still depended on doing physical meetup, physical trainings until those guys kept telling me, don't you do training online? And I was like, this online, that's before the pandemic, because even me, adopting online was mostly during, just not that I've not been doing online trainings, but it has never been my core. It was more like the secondary part, which is the problem with a lot of us today. What you have today, your social media, your smartphone, your mobile, and the digital technologies, you have your website and all that, are like secondary tools, not primary tools. But the truth of the matter is that they should be the primary, the core of your business. They should be the core of your brand. They should be the core of your career. It shouldn't play second fiddle anymore. It should be the driver of whatever you're doing today. Whatever you're doing today. So I started online training, and I found out that, man, in fact, I have delayed. A lot of people are making money from online trainings, from developing courses. Majority of you listening to me right now are experts in your field. Experts in your field. But do you have an online course? Have you been able to record a training and put it on any of these learning platforms where people can buy? It's a money spinner. I'm telling you the gospel truth. The thing is that you have what people need, but you're not applying the medium to get to the people who need what you have. You're all professionals in diverse fields, in different fields, but you're not leveraging the tools of the season, the tools of the dispensation you live in to reach out to those who need what you have to offer. Guys are out there offering junks and reaping millions, making good money. So you just have to find a way. You just have to find a way. I know Barrister Ben is a lawyer. I know you're making money from your law profession, but I can tell you, sir, that if you find a way to do things online based on your area of expertise, if you can find an intelligent way to be delivering online, I can guarantee you in a very short period of time, in at most a year or two, you will break to regions you never expected you will, if you're doing it right. And that's the gospel truth. The online platform makes you borderless, no boundaries, meaning that you can reach wherever you want to. Once you understand the tools and once you understand the dynamics and how to deploy. So that goes for the rest of us listening to me right now. The times have changed. The problem you and I have, I say you and I because I still have that problem too, it's a paradigm thing. What we require is not a system upgrade. I'm talking about our brain right now. What we need is a total reprogramming Upgrading is just like fixing a little few bugs, a little few things that are wrong. But reprogramming means, man, we need to throw away that software that we worked on. That's the gospel truth. Let me be crude. We need to throw away that software that is running our minds. It's not working in this century. We really need to reprogram. Recently, my daughter likes watching cartoon, and she usually fiddles with my phone or my mother's phone and keep cracking the screen. So I found a phone for her that nobody was using, and she used that, and we loaded cartoons. And then she broke the screen. In fact, the screen is broken. So I now found another old phone, because I used to deal in phone back then, and it was a Nokia Asha, I think 2013, 2014 model. After I fixed the phone, and I found out that the phone could not play some of the videos that we have today. As a matter of fact, the phone could not even browse. I tried every system upgrade. No way, it wasn't browsing. It couldn't even browse. That because that software that runs on that particular phone is completely out of tune with the current realities, with the current tools of today. And this is just 6 years ago. So there is no way I can even do an upgrade. I need to completely, if at all it's necessary, I will need to wipe out the software, the operating system on that phone, install a new operating system in order for it to be able to meet the demands of the times. The kind of demand today's world is placing on you and I, requires a different kind of thinking. And that's why I thank God for people like Mr. Humble, because they talk about paradigm shift, reprogramming the mind. We really need to understand, reprogram our mind and understand how these times work and see how we can leverage. Don't look at some of these things that they are things for younger generation. Yes, the younger generation may be misusing it, but the truth of the matter is that it's a tool. These are what drives, these are the things that drive the current century you live in. You cannot run away from it if you must break even, if you must break out, if you must differentiate. Your competitive advantage in your industry lies in your ability to leverage innovation and technology. Whatever idea you have must be driven on technology, because that's what drives the time you and I live in. That's where I want to stop so that we can go ahead and have a conversation. So, Mr. Humble, thank you for the time.
Oh, yes. Mr. Coach George, I was blown away there. Thank you very much for that epic delivery. That was an awesome one. And before I allow the rest of us to weigh in, I would like you to. I remember there was a time we talked about something. Uh, it has to do with before now we had Nokia to be the best
Yeah,
phone. I remember the Nokia 3310,
there's a 310,
yeah, and the rest of them back then. And they were working on, was it Symbian or so?
Symbian, yeah,
Such, yeah. So I remember,
Java.
yeah, Java exactly, and Symbian. I remember we had a conversation back then, and the conversation was around how Nokia were driven out of business by the likes of Samsung and the rest that came up, the Android technology, because they could not make that adjustment. Now I cannot remember very well because I'm not as deep into tech like you are. So I would like you to use that as an example to buttress on the point of today. How about that?
Okay, I don't think you should even lose. Let's look at BlackBerry, for instance.
Okay,
BlackBerry.
for example, yeah, exactly
Yeah,
that.
let's lose BlackBerry. Nokia is even a bit far. Look at BlackBerry. BlackBerry some few years ago was the phone, the must-have phone. Everybody must have because of the operating system it had. The operating system was research in motion. The BBOS was the most powerful, most secured operating system, but was closed in terms of wasn't an open source application. Closed in the sense that third parties couldn't develop applications and put on BlackBerry. Any application that is on BlackBerry, any app that has to be on a BlackBerry operating system or BlackBerry phone has to be developed by BlackBerry team. But Android came and leveraged collaboration, which is the skill of today's century, collaboration, an open source platform whereby they don't depend on their engineers to improve on the system. Rather, they open the system up for anybody in the world to develop applications and put on Android phones. So Android phone became very robust, very rich as a result of collaboration, as a result of what people in network marketing now call crowdfunding, meaning that there's a whole lot of people contributing to one central purse that makes the purse very large as compared to one small team of engineers. So what I'm trying to say is that that whatever you're doing today, if you do not understand the times and why that happened was because the world has moved into a world where people networking and where collaboration is key. If I didn't have that slide to show you the skills of this century. The skills of this century, as a matter of fact, is creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, networking, and I can't remember the other ones, but at least I can remember collaboration, networking, critical thinking, problem solving are the critical skills. And any organization or anybody who would want to break forth as well, like I said, will also find ways. And technology is one medium that allows you to collaborate with a large number of persons. So these companies, BlackBerry was out of the market within a short period of time simply because of their model. And the model was more like they had this closed system that was not open to for other people, other developers to make contributions to. But Android took over within a space of time. And Nokia as well too. In fact, Nokia had to transition because now Nokia does Android. And even before Nokia came into Android, Nokia started as a paper making company when the print media was like the in thing in the 19th centuries, the print media, when printing machines were, and Nokia started as a paper making company. And when they found out that printing was going out of fashion and tech was gradually taking over communication, they switched from printing papers to making phones. So invariably, what I'm saying is that you need to be sensitive, sniff around your industry, sniff around your sector, the area, the sector, the industry sector that you are today, and begin to find ways you can differentiate using leveraging technology to differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd. Remember, I said that only few people, a handful, break forth, make that shift.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Coach Josh. I appreciate you once again. Yes, I don't know if anybody else have a question. Does somebody have a question before I weigh in? If you do have a question, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and go ahead.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, Barrister. I can hear you.
Good evening, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Coach George. Thank you, Humble. It's been a real pleasure. Now, my question straight to the point is, isn't Apple doing what BlackBerry did in terms of limiting the scope of its use in terms of the iOS? That's my question. So how come,
okay,
in spite of what drove BlackBerry out of the market, Apple is still doing that with iPhone?
Yeah, you see, why Apple has been able to thrive is that Apple has been able to lock down the largest market in the world, which is the United States. Outside the United States, because the Americans are proud of their own brand. Apple is an American brand, and they hold it dear to themselves. And they've been able to create a brand around Apple that gives that prestige. Like, this is an elitist brand. If you want to outclass every other person, or if you want to outclass, if you think you're a person of class, then you should be carrying an iPhone. If you want security, because it's highly secure, just like BlackBerry was, then you have to carry an Apple device. So Apple have been able to succeed holding on because they are very innovative, one to start with, and they have let me put it, a branding technique, let me put it that way, a branding strategy that has enabled them hold on to the American market. Outside the United States, Apple is not a big brand. Yes, it is cherished outside America. We revere them, but they are not the highest selling brand. The highest selling brand is Samsung, and next to Huawei as we speak. And even Xiaomi from China, a China brand, which is a MI, they call it MI here, but in China it's Xiaomi, is the third highest selling smartphone in the world. I mean, brand in the world. So Apple have been able to hold their niche, the American market. And the Americans, you know, American feels that they are above every other and they pride themselves with whatever is an American. So they've been able to hold on to the largest economy in the world. And that's what gives them that advantage, because outside America, I'm telling the truth of the matter is that Apple will not try. That's the basic, that's the business model Apple is using, has been able to, and that has succeeded for them, is simply because of the American market. So I could rightly say that some sentiment and emotion is attached to it. The American love their thing and they want to hold on to that thing. And Apple is no doubt about that. Apple is unique. Apple is unique. I'm not disputing that fact. But what I'm saying is that the ones that has this open source, the open source platforms allow more robust applications. Now, the truth of the matter is that yes, Apple platform has a lot of applications, but you can't compare them to the applications